Oh, here it is.
Hi, I'm Naisha McCauley, and you're watching accesstv.org.
So we're going to get into the keynote speaker, and this gentleman I met by phone about a year ago, and from the day we met at downtown Manhattan, and we were walking. He had an event, and we ended up walking about 30 blocks until he said to me, I have someplace to be and speak. In about 5 minutes, I have no idea where I am. And I told him, no worry, we'll get there, but the conversation was so awesome and inspiring that day, I think that both of us have been learning a lot of things, and I'm gonna let him come and bless us. But we have a lot of work to do, he and I. We're doing some great things, and he's doing great things, and I'm learning from him. And on Sundays, you can hear the music that I'm putting together with his voice on Sunday NFL Countdown on ESPN for the whole football season. So you NFL fans, if you're up at 10 o'clock to 1 o'clock, we're going to be inspiring NFL fans with the word and a couple of inspirational things. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, please give a warm Hartford, Springfield, New Haven welcome to Mr. Eric Thomas.
Say, man, I feel embarrassed. June and I were going back and forth about my coming here, and I told June I had another appointment. Texas A&M wanted me to speak for them before they played Alabama today. I probably needed to be there. They were close. But I'll be honest, when I walked in the room, I was embarrassed. As I saw all these distinguished men, I thought to myself, wow, I almost made a grave error. And I'm usually not nervous. I've been doing this for a long time. I've been, I say humbly, but I've been all over the country, out of the country, and I've never been nervous. But when I walked in this room and saw greatness, I said to myself, I'm not worthy to speak before these men. Your shoestrings, as the word says, I'm not worthy to tie. And for me to stand here and speak to this group when you guys are sitting here and have a wealth of knowledge and experiences beyond my years, I'm just humbled, and I thank you for this opportunity. I can truly say this is probably one of the biggest engagements. This is probably one of the biggest engagements in my life. And again, I said humbly, but I have been blessed to speak for a lot of venues. So I thank you guys for this opportunity, and just allow me, before I actually speak about what I came to speak about. I remember a lady came to me about 3 months ago, and she told me 3 months from today, your career is gonna take off to a whole other level. And people prophesy all the time. I'm like, okay, where'd you get that from? But when I walked in the room today, I realized what she was talking about. That's 3 months ago when she said that to me. So again, thank you so much for this opportunity, and thank you guys for what you've done. Please just give me I was trying to think about, what I wanted to say to this group. And again, like I said, I had no idea I was addressing you, so I'm gonna have to switch everything up. But I thought about when I was I guess I might have been about 21, 22 years old. And it was the Time magazine. And the story on Time magazine was a young man they called Yummy. And I remember I was in college at the time, and I was excited. I'm a high school dropout, so to be able to get my GED and go to college, that was huge. My grandfather is a high school dropout. My father is a high school dropout. And when I dropped out, it was just a part of the culture. It's what we do. My grandfather had 5 kids by 5 different women. My father had 5 or 6 kids. Well, we say 5, but there's another one we found out that's out there. So it's just a history of failure. And when I got my GED and went to college, I was so excited just about getting out of Detroit. I was so excited about this opportunity to kind of start my life all over again. And so the first thing I want to say to you men, and I know you've accomplished so much, but I want to say to you, and I said again, respectfully, that your work is not done. That your work is not done. I remember being 17 years old, and I remember going to church for the first time. My mother got pregnant with me at 17 years old, and like I said, my biological father, for whatever reason, wasn't in my life. And so I remember my mother marrying, and I didn't have a great relationship with the person she married. I always tell my mom that was your husband, not my father. And although you wanted him to be my father, I didn't have a choice in the matter, and so we never really had an emotional attachment. And so unfortunately, like so many young men, I went the wrong direction. I remember when I went to church for the first time, this is why we need you first and foremost for hope and for belief and for inspiration. I'll never forget, the pastor came to me when I was 17 years old and a high school dropout. And he said to me, young man, have you finished school? And I said, no, sir. He was a military man. He said, have you finished school? I said, no, sir. He said, why haven't you finished school? And I said, well, we don't do school in my family. And I remember coming back to church the next week, and he said, son, are you in school? And I said, I told you last week, sir, I wasn't in school. And he said, I need you to do me a huge favor, young man. I need you to get your GED, and I need you to go to college. I said, sir, no disrespect, but you're a pastor. No disrespect. But that's what you're supposed to do. Like, that's your job. You're supposed to encourage people. He said, no, you don't get it, young man. I've been watching you, and you have a gift. You have an anointing on you. Now, mind you, he's talking to a 17-year-old who's sleeping in abandoned buildings and who got kicked out of school. But he's saying to me, you have a gift. And what I need you to do is I need you to get your GED, and I'm going to send you to college. I'm like, I don't know what college you're going to send me to, but I'm a high school dropout. And I love it. I love it. I love it. And what I'm asking you to do for me, and I know it's difficult sometimes when we're dealing with this particular generation. I run a retention program on the campus of Michigan State University, and it seems like every year the mentality of students are getting worse. It seems like it's getting worse, and the apathy is getting worse, and the laziness is getting worse. But the thing I love about Pastor is every week I would come to church, he would say, boy, did you get your GED? Like, he held me accountable when I couldn't spell accountability. But every week, he kept asking me, son, did you get your GED? And I say, no, I didn't get my GED. I told you last week, I told you the week before that, and I told you the week before that I didn't get no GED, and I don't plan on getting no GED. But he never stopped. We must never stop. As hopeless as it seems, we must never stop. And week in and week out, he kept saying, did you get your GED? And I said, no, sir. And then he put the first lady on me. I like the first lady because the first lady's approach was a little different. He was a military man, but the first lady would give me a hug and a kiss, and she didn't call me by my name. She called me baby. She said, baby, did you get your GED? I said, no, ma'am. She gave me a kiss. She said, I love you. Go get your GED. And week after week after week after week, having a strained relationship with my mother, she didn't know it, but like a heavyweight fighter, she was wearing me down. And I'll never forget about 6 months after I said no, when I said no to her this time, it felt like I was letting her down. We had established a relationship. And that relationship, it penetrated and it hurt. And I said, you know what? I can't keep telling this lady no. And as fate would have it, I started dating a young lady at the church. And the young lady told me I'm finishing high school and I'm not dating no high school dropout. When I go to college, if you don't come with me, I'm breaking up with you. And the kid went and studied, passed his GED. And listen to me, I've been married with that young lady for 23 years. And so what I'm asking you to do, when I saw the story of Yummy, what happened for me, when I saw that story, I'm originally from Chicago, South Side, and when I saw the story of Yummy, an 11-year-old in a gang in Chicago that had been murdered execution style, 11 years old. 11 years old. And so what happened for me, because the pastor was more than a pastor, but he was a man. Now, I say this with all due respect, is this meeting is so important tonight because there are a lot of individuals who have the title, but they don't represent the brand. Now listen to me, this is important, this is important. Guys, I can't be what you are at this particular point in my life. And I don't say this in a disrespectful manner, but there are people like Dr. Martin Luther King and Malcolm X. Like my grandmother, I don't know, I wasn't alive when Martin Luther King was alive, but he must have been some kind of man. Because when I would come in, Grandma would always have that picture of Jesus, and she had that picture of Martin Luther King. I mean, every time I would come in, Grandma would have, and I asked myself today, if Grandma was alive, some of the leaders that we have today, would Grandma have them next to Jesus and Martin Luther King? I'm not talking about a title. I'm not talking about the title that America gives us. I'm not talking about a degree. I'm talking about my grandmother had respect for Dr. Martin Luther King, respect for Marcus Garvey, respect for Malcolm X. My grandmother had respect, and she would have pictures in her wall. And so guys, you got to do me a huge favor. You have to expose what you're doing right here in this room. You have to expose it to the youngies of the world. Because I'll be honest, the reason why Eric Thomas was who Eric Thomas was at that particular junction in my life is because I didn't have a model. But Pastor Willis became that model for me, and he willed me to get my GED, and he sent me to a historically black university that changed my life forever, guys. And so what I'm asking you for me is, I'm asking you, as difficult as it is, as we're dealing with some of these young people in this society, I'm asking you to do me a huge favor. I'm asking you not to give up. I'm asking you not to give up on them. I'm asking you not to give up on our young men who seem hopeless. I'm asking you to visit the prisons. With all the work that I do, I still go to the prisons. And I still tell young people, like, when you come out, we need you to really be reformed. Like, this is not a time just to be in prison to sit. Martin Luther King came through here. Malcolm came through here. And when Malcolm came out, he came out a totally different person. This is your opportunity. We need you. We need you to be present. We need to see you. We need to hear you. Because when we hear you and we see your example, guess what? We change. Okay, and so I've only been given so much time, so I have to tell you how we changed. So I went from Detroit, Michigan. I went from being a high school dropout, and I went to a historically black university, and it blew my mind. When I got to campus, it was the first time in my life. See, I'm from Detroit, right? Guys, they did GM and Chrysler and Ford, and you didn't necessarily have to wear a suit to do that. And so when I got to college for the first time, I saw African American men dressed up at 8 o'clock in the morning on Tuesday. No, you gotta hear what I'm telling you. You said, well, Eric, are you saying you've never seen suits? I'm from Detroit, I've seen suits. But we talking like orange, right? Royal blue, right? With the gators, right? I'm talking about a whole other look when I went to college. And what I see in Barack Obama and this generation, I saw young men dressed up like that in college. I was exposed. And I heard it for the first time in my life. Young men not only dressed up, but at the breakfast table talking about Plessy versus Ferguson and Brown versus Board of Education. I had never heard that language before. And so what was happening was that person that the pastor saw in that environment was coming alive. That guy who I didn't even know exists, that guy started to come alive. And so we went from that GED, we went from that to the 4-year degree, and then we went on a fellowship to Michigan State and got a master's. Now we're in the last phase of a dissertation for a PhD. Why? Because somebody believed in me. Somebody believed in me when nobody else believed in me. And so listen to me, I need you to do me a favor. When the Detroit public school system said it's over for this kid. When the prison system said, you got one more strike. When my mother cried and said, I don't know what else to do with you. Some male, some man came to me and said, kid, you have greatness in you, and I'm going to make it my responsibility to bring that out of you. So why is modeling so important? Now, I need you to do me a huge favor, guys. You made it, and now I need you to come back and give us the blueprint. We need the blueprint. We need the blueprint. Out in the community, our kids need the blueprint. I'm an example. So what happened? What happened was I went to college, and I didn't know any better, but being from Detroit, I'm real good with deductive reasoning. And I noticed that the professor was getting paid and he wasn't coming to every class. I said, what kind of job is this? I want this kind of job. I'm from Detroit. My mother worked at Ford for 30 years. You don't get paid unless you clock in and clock out. And I started asking, where is this professor and who is this young person? They said, that's a TA, a teacher's assistant. So I said, where is the professor? They said, well, he's lecturing. I'm like, wow, he's getting paid to talk? Like, that guy's boring. So then I start asking questions. How is it that this guy gets paid not to be here and he's getting another check? That's 2 checks. That's multiple streams of income. And so they explained to me what happens is he's published. I said, oh, okay, he's published. That's why he's not here. I'm gonna be honest with you, when I first heard the term, I had never heard. In Detroit, West Side 8 Mile, I've never heard anybody published before. So when I asked one of my friends, black guy, what's published mean? He said it means he does research and he wrote a book. I said, oh, he wrote a book. They said, yeah, he gets special treatment because he wrote a book. Because I got in the environment. I say this humbly, but what happened was I paid attention. I paid attention to some rappers who did their own distribution deal, and so I said if the teacher can write it, I can write it. He's human just like I'm here. It's a blueprint. I never wrote a book before because my own father wasn't in my life. My father's 60-something, still trying to get a GED. I didn't know who my real father was. I didn't know my grandfather. I didn't have models. So when I went to college and I saw, woo, this guy, you can write, I can write a book. We're in the same space. And in less than a year and a half from my garage, me and my team sold over 25,000 copies. No distributor, 25,000 copies, and we made over $1 million. Some high school dropouts, guys from the hood. Why? Because somebody gave me the blueprints. Somebody who looked just like me. I'm going to tell you who that somebody is, Dr. Ben Carson. Somebody gave me the book. I said, please, I'm not, no, come on. They said, Eric, I want you to read. I said, this guy got this doctor, he's a doctor. I'm a high school dropout. They said, no, Eric, please read the book. I'm like, I can't. I don't have nothing in common with a neurosurgeon. They said, okay, just do me a favor. Read the first couple pages. Blueprints. So I read the first couple pages. I said, ooh, his father left him. I can read 2 more pages. This guy, my father left me. Wow. I kept going and I read Dr. Ben Carson, Livernois, Finkel, that's Detroit. Dr. Ben Carson, the neurosurgeon, is from the west side of Detroit. His father left him. He's from the west side of Detroit. Okay, I'm going to read a couple more pages. Dr. Ben Carson hated school. Ooh, my father left me. I'm from Detroit and I hate school. I might as well read this whole book. And I found out Dr. Ben Carson had an anger problem. Listen to me. The reason why it took me 12 years to get a 4-year degree is because when I went on campus and I saw Pucky, and Pucky was so articulate, and Pucky was so deep, and his father was an alumnus, and his grandfather was an alumnus, the reason why it took me so long to finish, because when I saw Pucky, I said, if that's what you have to be to graduate, then I can't do it. And then Skip graduated. And Skip smoked weed almost every day. I'm just going to be honest with you. We're going to use his nickname. I'm not going to use his real name. Skip partied every single night. But guess what? What Skip did for me when he marched, when Equay marched, what it did for me is said, ooh, I can do it. Somebody who's like me and who's from where I'm from, please do me a huge favor as you continue to give and give and give. Don't just give financially. Continue to give your presence. Because when we see you walk in, we say we can do it when we see you. I didn't think I could get a PhD until I saw African-American professors who had PhDs, and they said to me, young man, if you want it, if you're willing to put forth the effort, we'll show you the blueprint and you can make it happen. And so finally, what I need you to do for me, finally, we have to teach these young people, and I learned it from my grandma. Man, praise God for my grandmother. My grandmother understood the importance of community. Now, this is old school. It's old school. My grandmother was special. First of all, my grandmother understood the importance, and we got to teach these kids the importance of being the best individual you could be. Like, I think grandma might have had a 3rd or 4th grade education, but I'm telling you, grandma took care of her business. And what I love about my grandmother was she made the best food, best cakes, everything grandma did. She put like 120%. I'm talking about like this back in the day, they don't do this anymore. When grandma made chicken, like she let it sit in buttermilk for like two days, old school stuff. And I had time for that kind of stuff no more. Grandma let it soak, right? And grandma would fry, and the thing I loved about my grandmother, she understood community. And so what my grandmother would do is, every time my grandmother cooked the cake or every time she cooked dinner, grandma would go outside first and make sure that everybody in the community had something to eat. Oh, listen to me. This is what we got to teach our young people, because when I listen to these young people, they're saying, I woke up in a new Bugatti. $500,000 vehicle, no house, $500,000 vehicle. It's ignorance, right? Just everything is self-centered. And I need you guys to do me a huge favor. I need you guys to teach these kids the importance of community. Now, this is my final one because this is important. When I went to college, there was this mural, and it said, "Enter to learn, depart to serve." And so every single day they would tell us, when you get your GED, when you get your 4-year degree, when you get your master's, when you get your PhD, it's not so you can be elevated. It's so when you get there, you can have the tools that you need to go back in the community and make a difference. And so our junior year, we started the GED program. And then when I got to Michigan State, we started the retention program. And then we started a series online called Thank God It's Monday, where every Monday we're giving these kids motivational inspiration. And when I'm with the Lions, they listen to it. When I go to London, we do a piece so they can see what London looks like. So when I'm in Jamaica, we shoot it in Jamaica so that they can see. They can physically see somebody. So when people see me, they say, "E.T., why the hat?" The hat is, so when I'm on campus, kids who walk on that campus who don't see themselves, as soon as they walk on campus and they see a hat, we got to connect with that guy right there, because that guy understands who we are and where we come from. I'm not telling them you don't need to get an education. I'm not telling them you don't need to pull your pants up. But what I'm telling them is, I've been where you've been, I've done what you've done, and I'm not trying to make it like you can't do it. I'm telling you, you can make it happen. And so we need to teach our children that being blessed doesn't mean arrogance. Being blessed doesn't mean you stand off. Being blessed means that when you are blessed with wealth, when you are blessed with information, when you are blessed with knowledge, you give back. So I love my grandmother, because my grandmother made the best cakes. Because my grandmother showed us what excellence was all about. She went to work every day. My grandmother went to church on a regular basis. My grandmother loved her sons. My grandmother showed me that as an individual, and we have to show them, no shortcuts. As individuals, when you go to class, if they're giving out 4 points, you got to get 4 points. We have to teach them, listen to me, we have to teach them that they have to live to a level of excellence and that they have to give back. So my final story. We got to teach them the benchmarks. I'll never forget, I'm a different kind of father. I wanted a daughter first, not a son. My grandmother had 14 kids, 11 females. So I was raised by my aunts, and I wanted a daughter. And I remember when I had my son, I was like, man, I wanted a daughter. And my mother said, son, it's called karma. Everything you had done to me, son, is going to come back to you. And she was 100% right. I'll never forget, I had my daughter second, the apple of my eye. And I remember going up to the school to pick up my daughter. And when I picked up my daughter, it was, these days they do it different. They're numbers. So my baby is number 4. She's about 3rd or 4th grade. And I had my little sign, I picked up number 4, please. And they called number 4 to the front, number 4 to the front. And I'll never forget, number 4 came out crying. And number 4, listen to me, number 4 came out crying, guys, and I was hurt. I'm thinking some little boy that hit my daughter, I'm about to crucify little man. This is it. I'm about to take little man out. And my daughter's crying, and she's that old school cry when your grandma whipped you with a switch. That cry, that when she whips you, is so bad that there's no sound. You just like, you know the cry I'm talking about. When grandma hits you, and you start crying. Grandma had a nerve to say, you better stop crying before I give you something to cry about. And I tell grandma, you just gave me something to cry about. And so my daughter had that, Daddy, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. And I said, boo, what's wrong? Talk to me. Just, if you can't say his name, just point to me. I'll take care of it. And she said, Daddy, I'm so sorry. She was in the 3rd or 4th grade, I don't remember. I'm sorry, Daddy, I'm sorry. I said, boo, what happened? What's wrong? She said, I got a B in math. I'm thinking somebody about to go to jail because you got a B in math. I'm about to kill one of these little boys. She said, no, Daddy, I got my first B, and she was devastated, never had a B in her life. And so she said to me, Daddy, you don't understand, I'm not going to be able to get an Eagle Award. I'm just going to get a Patriot Award, and that's A's and B's. Daddy, I want all A's. And so I took her home, and I told her, look, it's going to be all right. You're going to be fine. And my son walked through the door with his report card. 3 grades older. He's got his report card. He's excited. Dad, you got to see it. I'm on a football team now. I told you I was going to step up. I said, praise God, son. And so he throws his report card down. He's like, Dad, do me a favor. Before you look at this, Dad, promise me we're going out to eat. I said, No problem. Your sister's crying, but let me see your report card. I open up his report card, and I look at his report card, and he has all C's. And he's like, yeah, Dad, I passed every single class, Dad. I said, son, but you got a C- in English, son. He said, but I got a C+ in gym. That balance all that out, Dad. I'm still on the football team. No, listen to me, I mean this. We've got to teach our young people that as black men, average is not good enough. That average is not good enough. As a matter of fact, when we look at our DNA, good ain't good enough. We have to teach them to be great, and we have to teach them to be phenomenal. But guess what? They don't know what greatness is. Many of them have not seen it. Many of them have not seen it in their fathers or their uncles or in their community. They don't see it, or if they see it, they see one great and 10 or 11 not so great, average. And so I'm asking you, because you changed me without even knowing it. You don't know me, but you changed me. Pastor Willis represents, if he was here, he would be sitting here. Pastor Willis believed in me as I stand here today. I'm saying, wow, he saw something in me when I didn't see it in myself. He believed that this was going to happen to me before I believed it was going to happen to me. He believed London for me. He believed Australia for me. He believed that I would speak in South Africa long before I even knew how to speak. He believed it. He saw it. Do me a favor. When you cannot see it in them, tell them you can see it in them. When you really don't believe, just say it anyway. And speak the belief into them. Speak the change into them. And show them the model of what they can be. Because if you tell Eric Thomas he can do it, and you show me the way, I'll go from a high school dropout to a PhD candidate and an author. Keep doing what you're doing. God bless, and I thank you so much.
Give it up one more time for Eric Thomas, ladies and gentlemen, please. Now, Eric, we have the key to the city here for you. I'm not certain where it is here, but we have a proclamation from. There's all kinds of crazy back here, I promise you. But we have a proclamation for you here, welcoming you here to the city of Hartford. We appreciate you. Thank you so much. I look for a long time of working with you and inspiring everybody that we can that walks across our path. So thank you so much.